unfinished pine tread. This is what I was in the market for, and I went to Home Depot and they had some, but it was you could tell it was glued together in multiple parts. It was pine, but it was kind of an engineered pine where they had glued separate pieces together, because they say, yeah, well, you don't get a warped board, yada yada yada. They were about 11 bucks each, and they were 4 feet long, which is exactly what this is. And that's another thing about the Home Depot ones. They were so, I mean, they all just looked like this very fine line pattern. There was not a defect on them. There were no knots or anything interesting to them. So, and I was curious how they would take the stain that I'm going to do. I'm doing that vinegar and steel wool stain, and I wanted to make sure it was real true pine that I was using, not just white wood as they will sometimes sell. So I went to my local lumber yard, and they had solid pine in 12-foot lengths, which I purchased for $2.97 a foot. So I ended up saving a lot of money. Now also, when you're looking at your board, you want to flip it over and see, make sure that you get the side that you like. And I'm going to tell you why I chose this side. This side is visually interesting for the kind of rustic stairs I'm doing, but there were too many sharp, there's a big dagger hole there, there's a hole here. I didn't want to have to use wood filler on here to make it safe, so that's why I'm using, but see, it's got a really neat, I can sand that down to make it safe, but it's got a really neat crack on the front. And this is why I was able to use pine board. You know, a lot of people want a real high finish, you know, really super smooth paintable finish or stainable finish that they could do a, you know, a glossier finish on, but I want mine to look rustic, so I didn't mind that it had dings in it, scratches, and like we've got a crack here in this knot, and a lot of knots. I wanted a lot of knots on mine, so that's what I went with this one. To make brand new pine wood look like old reclaimed barn wood, these are my tools. And these are just things I found in our garage that I thought would make interesting patterns. So let's get started. I'll show you how it works. The first thing I like to use is this metal scratch brush. I thought, wow, this is going to be a neat way to add little pinholes that will soak up the stain and give it or an aged look really quickly. And what it looks like when it's done is here. And I'm going to show you how we got that. Now this may or may not show up in the shot here, but there are little micro holes that you can see, and what I like to do is kind of do it all over, and then I also concentrate in a couple areas. Anywhere where it's really clear and pretty, I kind of concentrate in that area to give an extra darkness. Don't forget to do the edge. You don't want to have the top be all dinged up and the edges be pristine. That'll look odd. So we're done with this tool. Now the next tool I like to use is a chain. This is the only chain I had. I would be using a bigger chain if I had one. Perhaps you have a bigger chain at your house. This was hanging a flower pot, and I took it down. And all we're going to do here is just whack it up. Now this one, you can see it leaves a little bit of green. That's okay. It just gives it character when you're done. I do this all over the board, because these are such little nicks. It doesn't make that much of a difference if I do it all over it. If I had a big chain, I wouldn't be doing it as much. And like all of my treatments I do, I like to concentrate. I do it all over a little bit, and then I concentrate in one area that I think is, like, this is a pretty empty area. Okay, the next tool I like to use is this one. This leaves a really neat little multiple lines. And I sometimes do them in a trio, or I can make like a snake curves a little bit. Okay. That's good for that And that's what this looks like. Let me show you what this looks like afterwards once you take it. The next is this guy, and I use him because of the little hole here on the end. It leaves kind of a circular thing. And I don't like to use too much of this because this one is a really distinct shape. So what I'll do is I'll find an area like back here where there's not a whole lot of stuff, and I'll whack it a few times. I think it looks better when they're clumped instead of evenly done out all over. So I'll just do I kind of do 3s, 2s, give them on the end a couple of these. And this, sometimes I'll find an end piece and I'll just really bash it. That's going to look really cool. And yes, it's starting to flake and get a little sharp, but we're going to sand that down later, so you'll see. And you can use the other end of this too. It leaves a really nice dent. See that dent? That's a nice one. And you can bring that dent up over the edge for a really neat part. You can use other parts of this just to scratch it. It doesn't show much now, but once we put the dye on, you'll see that. And scratches I like to go with the grain sometimes. I'll do like in 3s together, so it looks like something scratched along it. You can also just do one big one like that. Ooh, and that one you can even see. Because that happens in old wood. And it's neat if you can bring it around the edge. There we go. Around the lip. Okay, so that's this one. We have our good old hammer that we just use. And we whack it a few times. Find an area and concentrate there. I also like to bash the back end of this. Okay. Also, kind of walk it around because it makes neat lines, and it makes little dings and lines. Okay, that's the hammer. And then the last one is good old screwdriver. There's a lot of things you can do with a screwdriver. You can do little stabby, look almost like staples, and I usually do these in 3s or 2s together and just kind of all over. And I find an area again and I'll do a grouping. You can see that down here. Okay, forget your end. And you can go really lightly with this on pine, and it makes little tiny nicks. You don't have to do everything hard. Every now and then you can give it a nice deep gouge stab. Every now and then you can really gouge it, because that's going to leave a really nice... Okay, this is a fun thing I realized you can do. Let me find a place where this will look right. Maybe down here. No. I'll do a really small version down here. And what it is it's just rocking it back and forth. Really, if I just push and rock it, I kind of curve it a little bit when I do it. It makes this neat zigzaggy thing. So that's what this looks like after. Another thing you can do is this. It makes a neat pattern. Use this end of it too, make little divots. You can also whack the sides of things. You can get your hammer and make a line across the whole thing. Use this edge. You can make an actual line in the... Okay. And let's do a diagonal one over here. There we go. I think this board's just about good.